Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, fellow IIT Bombay alumni. I am DC Agarwal. I'm president of the IIT Bombay Heritage Foundation, your alumni association in United States. Welcome to the first HF talk. As you know, we're all going through a very challenging times, both at a professional level and a personal level. And given lockdown and other restrictions, our social interactions have changed from in-person to virtual. And so too must HF, and so bear with us on this one. This is our way to communicate with all of you. We want to keep you informed on IIT Bombay activities, your chapter activities, and other topical and interesting subjects in future talks. Today's talk is by Director Subhasis Chaudhuri, who needs no introduction. And our moderator today for this fireside chat is Paraswil Patel. Paraswil is a 2009 BTech in electrical engineering. And after that, he did an MBA from Harvard Business School. He's an HF, Heritage Foundation board member, and an active member of the Greater New York chapter. Before I turn over to Paraswil, I'd like to add that we'll be doing a very short survey after this talk ends. And this is to help us plan future talks. So please take the 2 minutes to complete the survey. And I'll also like to thank the HF and AA team that has helped organize this talk and disseminate information about it to everybody. Thanks again. Paraswil, please go ahead.
Thank you, DC. Appreciate it. So before we get started, I just wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. There is a chat functionality at the bottom of the screen. You can use that to have a conversation in parallel. Please introduce yourself. We are up to 113 participants. You can talk about your hostel, the year you graduated, your department, and where you are right now. There's a separate Q&A functionality. We'll be using that to surface questions to ask the director. You can also upvote on questions that others have asked if you have the same question. We are recording this and we'll upload this later on the IITBHF YouTube channel. And as DC mentioned, at the end of our presentation, it'll direct you towards the survey. Please fill it out. We hope to have the series on an ongoing basis every 3 to 4 weeks. We want to bring you a talk that's of interest to you. So please fill in your inputs there. With that, I want to introduce Professor Chaudhuri. He's the current director at IIT Bombay. He took over that position last year. He's been a faculty with the institute since 1990. He's also previously served as the head of the electrical engineering department. He holds a PhD from UC San Diego, a master's from University of Calgary, and he did his undergrad from IIT Kharagpur, though we won't hold that against him right now. He's also been a recipient of multiple prestigious awards, including the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award. He's going to be starting off with a short presentation on how IIT Bombay is dealing with COVID-19 as an organization, as a community, and also as an R&D institution. And then we'll be taking the questions that have come up and discussing those for the rest of the time. So thank you, Professor Chaudhuri, for taking some time to talk to the alumni body. I'll turn it over to you for your presentation.
Thank you, Paraswil, and thank you, HF, for organizing this meeting. It's really a pleasure. Good morning to my friends in the North America, and good morning there and also some other places, and good evening to those people who are in India and the neighborhood. Today, I thought that I would start the evening with kind of a discussion on what has been happening in IIT Bombay since the lockdown, because many of you have been asking me this question or asking your friends, how is IIT Bombay doing? I know that you grew up in this campus, your heart is here often, but whenever you hear that something happens in IIT Bombay, it does reverberate among all of you. And for that, I just would like to take about 15-20 minutes to go through the current set of things that's happening at IIT Bombay so that you know what's happening to your alma mater. And also at the end of it, I'll put forward certain kind of an idea how we are planning to move ahead. Because of course, this is a dynamic situation and we'll see how it goes depending on our plan. And we are quite adaptive to the change because we know that the pandemic is still not under any control at all in Mumbai and India. So we'll see that how to change if it is required. So I'll go through my presentation now. And if you see that, let me see if I can change the, yes. So let's look at the facts. Whenever this lockdown, it was announced that we should close down before the lockdown. So we asked all students to go home. So basically the institute is declared closed to all students and they left by March of 20th. So this is about 4 or 5 days before the actual lockdown happened. So because of that, thankfully, all of our students could actually go back to their home safely. And only 70 out of 10,000 odd students stayed back because of various reasons. They could not go, and there are a few international students. So even now we have not more than 50 or 60 of them. All laboratories, classrooms, hostels, they were closed. Then what we also tried to do immediately, we tried to put a pause there in our current semester. And I'll come back to that later. What was the reason for that? Because we took some time, around 4 or 5 days, and we came up again because by the time the students have gone back home, and we said, okay, let's try to see whether we can run the semester on an online mode. But then, we realized that we had certain difficulties, and I'll come to that later. But so we had to stop that, okay? Because not all of our students were able to connect. And that's actually a big problem where our students are distributed all over India and some of them did not have the proper facilities. And we were also probably a little bit ill-prepared in a 4 days time to start doing it. So having gone through that, now we had several Senate meetings and we realized that one thing is that the students' career is very important, okay? They have to graduate in time because there are jobs available and currently the scenario may not be very good. So we must let them keep their promise. So we worked out a very comprehensive plan so that all grading for the current semester could be completed by June 30th. And what we did is that when we had a short pause in between, we also ran a summer semester so that those students who are in the final year and if they had certain backlogs, hopefully they would be able to clear. So everything, both the summer semester and the semester before, they would actually be closing down by June 30th. So all students would graduate, those who are, or they would get promoted, or if they are, they of course they deserve it. Now, what has happened is that during this time, you also realize the one I put it in red is that there is no student support for any research activity in the campus. Because this is very important because, finally many of the students are actually helping the professors in coming out with the research activity and planning. So that was lacking. So now let me come back to the issue that what is happening to the academics and what was the problem. So if you look at the basic education, the learning process, there are actually, I classify them in 3 different verticals. One is a fundamental, which is like your undergraduate days here when you learn something. And the second one is your skilling. So fundamentals is more like a real, actually hardcore learning of topics. Skilling is something like which is more as a vocational training where you learn about how to do plumbings, others doing labs and others by doing it by hand. And the reskilling is that when you are already know enough and you want to upgrade your knowledge to something, more than what is currently happening. So out of that, the first 2, that is the fundamental learning and the skilling, it's very difficult to actually do it on an online fashion. Whereas the reskilling, that's where most of the MOOCs and others, they were actually doing it. Actually, that's a lot easier to do. So in our case, most of the teaching that IIT and other things, they're actually doing it in the fundamental sides. And we did face a lot of problems. And the reason for certain difficulties are that for the online instruction that we started, particularly in India, we had several issues. One is the inhomogeneity in the form of the instructions. Various faculty members, we have not actually been familiar with this process of doing it. Similarly, from the student side, the network access, the kind of thing that they get is not available all over. Like, for example, if you are in Jammu and Kashmir, actually even the 4G doesn't work there. It's only 2G. So there are problems, but our students are all over India. And thirdly is the affordability. There are a good number of students who could not afford their own laptops. So that created a problem for our online education during the last semester that we have actually just crossing. So Senate came out with an appropriate decision for closure of the semester, which is in some sense, I would say that we are keeping the so-called strict policies of the IIT Bombay that we do, the philosophy of learning from the professors and their independence. At the same time, we want to listen to the difficulties of the students. So it's basically a two-way link that we try to connect the professors and the students. So we have worked out this plan and we can share it with anybody if you are interested. And at the same time, we allowed all these PhD vivas and various BTech, MTech, PhD, all these vivas to be conducted online, so that there is no difficulty for them in graduations or carrying out their plan. As a matter of fact, in the last 60 days of our lockdown, I have signed at least 50 to 60 students who have now graduated. They completed their PhD viva during this time. So activities were there. But what are the damages that has happened to IIT Bombay during this COVID? So one is, of course, the first casualty that I can tell you is the research, because that's where we put a lot of emphasis in IIT Bombay. It has come to almost a complete stop, particularly if you are doing laboratory where actually you need to be in the laboratory, like in a wet lab or in a mechanical engineering lab where you have to design and things like this. The second aspect is in the uncertainty in the minds of students and faculty, because there is always a feeling, oh, what's going to happen? Are you going to be, should we wait and we get certain things in next 15 days or 1 month? So this uncertainty is killing a lot of students. They've become extremely, I would say, worried that what's going to happen to our career. So that's one aspect. Campus being deserted, the human-animal conflict may see a rise, because I might have told you earlier in the different post that we already are seeing certain animals even at during the daytime, which very rarely happened earlier. So far, we had 6 positive cases in the campus and 1 unfortunate death. And mind it, the person was below 40. So that was very, very unfortunate. Most students lost the summer internship opportunity. Some of them, they could do online if the particular kind of, the project could be done on an online mode, but otherwise many of them lost that opportunity. Second thing is that IIT Bombay, many of the students, those who are graduating, they depend on good placement, and we do get very good placement opportunities. So normally we have a large phase 1 of placement, which actually happens sometime in December. That worked out very well. And then we have a second round, which is usually in the March. So now those are the victims, because now we could not, those things could not be held. We tried to do some kind of an online thing, but that's not working well. But luckily, out of the round 1, we had about 1,200 offers. But so far, only 8 of them have said, we are withdrawing the offer. So thankfully, those who have been placed, they're still, they have the job with them, and that's will be very useful to them. Other casualty is all construction activities have stopped in the campus. All of them, all these workers have left, because this was something we are hoping, because our campus is starved for infrastructure, and this we were trying to do it, but it is now fully stopped. Now, what are the ways that we thought that we could handle? You're, quite progressive at the formative phase. So what we did is that in order to meet the challenges, we expected certain challenges. So we made very dedicated task force And one of them is that, overall COVID task force headed by our deputy director, and everything that even if you want to come to the campus and you are not allowed to normally, then you would need permission, so that we put a lot of kind of do's and don'ts. This task force has been becoming very useful. Then there are like 60 or 70 students and they were like idle. So we use them. These are the COVID research task force. Sorry, it's the third point. The student task force was actually we created under the Dean of Students Affairs, and they actually turned out to be very good asset for the institute because they volunteered for a lot of activities in our daily life, and which made our life a lot easier in the campus during this time. Whatever the remnant research that is still going on, for that we created a COVID-related research task force under the Dean of R&D. And then, when we still have something like more than 1,500 families in the campus, how do they survive? Because all the supply lines in the city was like dead. So how do you get your campus provision? So we created a task force so that our daily rations, or they're being supplied by these people. So they actually played a very major role, and they all follow all these social distancing norms. Then we have a campus rebooting committee now. They are thinking of how to start by maintaining all these, ways of keeping the social distancing. What are the possibilities? And infrastructure repurposing committee. They would be telling us like, what is to be changed so that, let's say, all elevators that you are doing, they would be stopping at all levels, irrespective of where you go, so that you don't have to touch those points. So there are these kind of things which is happening now. Now, what we also try to do is that to meet the challenges, because many students, because of the uncertainties, we tried to do online counseling of students because they needed some help, because they were very anxious. And in order to help them, we provided online counseling of students. We have several counselors, and they have been working with the students. We also handled the plight of the migrant workers. There were like 700 of them. And as you know, in India, this was a big problem. We successfully, and I think we're very, very passionately tried to help their way, but now most of them have gone home. We also lent support to the city by providing a quarantine service here in the campus when they needed at the beginning. And that actually brought into certain kind of readiness, which helped us later on, is that we created a BMC, that is the Mumbai Municipal Corporation, approved isolation center in our hospital in case certain things happen, like now we have it. So they, as you know, the hospitals are not available. There are a lot of difficulties. So if it is not really a very serious case, it can be moved into the isolation center. And at the same time, we have created a functional quarantine center in our Banbihar guest house, so that anywhere, if there is a family or other, if there is a requirement for quarantining them, these are all asymptomatic cases, or they may be COVID negative, but you are just quarantining them. So they would be in this particular one, okay? And at the same time, in the research, we tried to create certain kind of facilities for the nation so that we can fight the pandemic. And I'll give you some of the quick ones. One of the first things are actually the preventive ones. So we actually created immediately a lot of things which are immediately required. Now we don't need to do it anymore, but we actually trained people. So in certain villages in Jawahar and others, we actually trained people. So they created face shields, aerosol boxes, and washable PPEs, all kind of things, so that actually immediately Mumbai needed those kind of things. So we tried to help them. Similarly, many other things that needed to be disinfected by putting into some kind of a UV treatment. So we created such kind of things, and we have actually this working in our hospital, and we have given it to some of the other people by actually making it so that you are doing some kind of a disinfection of your personal belongings or certain things which are even bigger. Next is we also have certain kind of commercializable products that actually can be done. For example, you might have heard initially people were thinking of like a shower through which you should be going for, basically sanitization purpose, but that is not a good one because that is a peroxide kind of thing. So this is all phytoformulation based. So these are all safe. So this is all done. We can also have wash resistant antiviral coatings for different kind of textile materials so that people that you wear those, so they can be actually antiviral coated. Then we also have these PPs, in Mumbai and many other places. These PPs many of them are plastic made, and actually it's a lot of hazards. And how do you dispose them of? So we are actually doing a biodegradable antiviral plastics that we have produced, and it is being commercialized now. Similarly, there are also certain kind of prophylactic one that has been done. There are also some aerosols which have been done, like supposing, let's say you spray it through your nasal spray. So if you have like something called cytokine storm, when actually those people who are in severe breathing difficulty, I think that's what is it called. And this would try to remove their distress level to some extent. Similarly, there are other kind of things that where the people are doing different kind of ventilators, CPAP kind of machines that you see that these have been done. And we are looking at ways of doing it. So at different places, the ventilator has been a major problem in India. As you know, there are very few of them. And even in certain cases, even oxygen supply. So this has been done here. This is one which is done in our BATIC by Professor Ravi's lab, which is in a ventilator which has been made here. And they are being, with an industry partner, they are already producing it. Okay. Similarly, if you look at, this is something that I came out in the paper. I don't have the full details. It's one of our design school student, actually, while being in Kashmir lockdown, he developed something on their own. It came out in the paper, so I just put it up across this. I do not have too much of details, but it got certain kind of media attention because the student alone has done that. Similarly, I take you another one is that, for physical distancing and, contact tracing, there is this quarantine app which has been developed, and it can tell you whether you are coming in contact with something, or somebody can actually keep a check on you whether you are violating your quarantine space. So this is being used in Odisha and Meghalaya, and the Deloitte is the industry partner. They are supporting it. And this has been done in our computer science department, and it's being used in many places now. We also realize that, many of the normal, not everybody has COVID. There are other people with other kind of health difficulties. So we actually do an online OPD system we created, and it's a WhatsApp-based system. And it can even write a prescription for you from the doctors, and it is already in operation, like in KEM, in Kokilaben Hospital, and in our IIT hospital, we run it. So it has also been done by our computer science faculty. There are several other kind of things people have been doing. It's kind of a nasal gel. Then they are also trying to do biomarkers. I just gave you a little bit of glimpse of the kind of activities, knowing very well that majority of our students are not in the campus. Now, what is the path ahead? This is what has happened till there. What do you do now? So realize the first thing, the campus is very, very densely populated. We can't even provide single rooms to all of our students. Okay. So how do you maintain social distancing? It's very difficult. If you want to open it up now, what would you do? And if the students, they come from all over India, some of them could be from green zone, some of them could be from the red. And what happens even here through this, if somebody actually does, it does test positive, so then he would end up being like a super spreader. So that's what is going to be very risky for us, even though we have planned for our quarantine center. But what would be our capacity? The Mumbai as a city is not able to handle it. So to look into that, we are saying that what could be our way forward? Right now, we are looking at our next semester is likely to be in the distance mode, because we realize that it's going to be very difficult to bring in those people. So our faculty is currently being trained for online delivery. As we talk, there are certain kind of a training program going on for our faculty members, and about 300 of them are actually going through this process. We are also trying to see that if we can actually readjust our curriculum so that the coming semester we have less of labs and we move them to the other semester, hoping that the second semester they may be able to come here and can participate more in the labs. Yes, one thing we are still unsure, and we are evaluating all this process, because this is something which is very difficult for online case, is that what would be the evaluation process for the next semester? Because this is like proctoring, online proctoring is very difficult. We have certain options. We are looking at all possible ways of doing it. So now we are thinking of gradual opening of this campus to accommodate research students. So they would be coming shortly, maybe another 15-20 days. We are waiting for the Maharashtra state to remove the lockdown. And once that happens, we'll give our green signal to first, let's say about 300 or 400 of them, those who are close to finishing, and then gradually we have a plan. Then what about admission and others? There are, some of places they are saying, let's not have anybody admitted, but that's actually quite not correct. So there are certain kind of things like undergraduate, your BTech, BDays and others, at the same time MTech. These are batch-based, these are gated time. So they're already underway. As a matter of fact, today was the first day we actually allowed our master's admission for the next semester. And we expect some delay for the first year JEE advance, because that's going to happen as of now on August 23rd. So it will be after that, okay? And the PhD admission, we are thinking that they are joining maybe deferred by a semester, because anyway, this is like a 5-year period. So you can take little liberty and ask them to join by January. That's what the plan as of now, but we need to go through the Senate and get it approved. But then, one thing you have to realize that IIT Bombay is not just classroom instruction. So many people have the feeling that, we can do online courses and that's it. I mean, why do I have to be there? What about IITB ambience? Actually, if you ask, there are so many of you are there. How many of you would say that how much you learn from your friends and your hostels and the kind of a campus? Actually, that makes you a complete IITB alumnus. So they would be missing out if we are not able to bring them here, okay? So this also helps them in their personality and soft skill development. These are very important things. All this together, our ambience, our hostels, our teachers, our training, our students in the classroom, everything makes an IIT Bombay student or alumnus. The moment you cut off certain things, I think the quality of our students will come down. But at the same time, we cannot wait. So the other thing is that in modern day, the building a peer network is very important. So if they are not able to come here and they can't build up their peer, it'll be unfortunate, and we'll not be able to provide them all the support when they graduate, because this is a peer network is very important. This is where they're going to lack unless we are able to bring them here. And the next statement is actually very, my personal opinion, because it's a little drastic, but my personal feeling is that online education, it suffers from extreme technological poverty. And what I mean here is that so far, if you look at all these different types of MOOCs, other platforms, it's good if you know the thing, you want to learn some additional thing, it's good. So these platforms are mostly software based, or you define, whether you can provide enough bandwidth, whether you do enough analytics at the back end, you can provide a content, they look at that. But if you look at the technology today, this is where there are, I do not have actually a presence. See, right now, when you listen to me as a talk, it's not same as when I give you in front of you, where you can see my body language, my hand movement, my feet, everything. Because the ambience, how I move around. So these are important things. Similarly, when you see it, you also watch your neighbors and others. But the technology today exists where I can actually put all of us in some kind of an augmented reality by putting all of them virtually into a classroom where all of us could be actually in some virtual center, but we are all together. And then when we do something, I can feel like there are haptics, there are other things. So all of this can be done. Technology, right now it does exist, but right now we are not focusing on that, because mostly all over the world, the main interest has been just to make sure that the throughput of any educational system I want to cover a large number of students by using one of them. And that's not like what is really an IIT Bombay type of experience. I would say that we have always wanted to give it to our students. Now I can go to the last slide, is that how alumni can help. Now, one of them is that our students, personally, I feel they're very poor in handling uncertainty or failures. I got too many mails by several students all over, even at the beginning. Sir, what would happen to my career? I'm losing my internship, I'm losing my job, or what would happen if I can't graduate? Now, this is something, in my opinion, could have been avoided, because we know very well that our students are the best in the world. And these students, if they are confident that of their own standing, they need not worry, because we are talking about a very few top level students. And no matter how they came out of this whole COVID pandemic, tomorrow, if there is anybody who gets a job, our students will be the first to get a job, because they are really the best in the crop. So this is where I think we have to tell them. So when you are very good, sometimes you have never their entire life, they have never faced any difficulty in terms of academic uncertainty or if there is any failure. Okay. So this is where it will be very good if you could counsel them that, look, someday there would be light beyond the tunnel and all of you will start shining. That's all I want you to tell that message to them. Similarly, there's another thing is where all our alumnus could help, is that we need to overcome the digital divide, okay, among the students, and that requires kind of immediate help. I'll explain. So typically, whenever we said that we'll go for a kind of an online course, already there are people who have been writing to ministry and many other places. What about those students who cannot afford? I know there are a lot of such people. Okay. And there would be. It was always there in India, and there will be again, hopefully, many years, it will still be there. And, or I would say, hopefully, someday it will not be there, but it's not going to go away so soon. But because few people are not able to get that, we cannot stop the other people to have the delivery of their academics. We'll have to provide this academics, but at the same time, we do not want to lose out the other set of students who cannot afford. So we'll have to provide them with the means. If they need laptop, if they need the data, we'll try to support. We have promised them. And I think we had a meeting with our HF, and we're very happy to see that they are coming out, and they are going to help us. And this is open to those who are listening, that this is where we can definitely contribute. Whatever your donations and others, actually we can use it to help those students who are otherwise unable to help themselves. Next one also is very important for us for long-term vision. COVID will go off someday, but IIT Bombay has to continue and has to keep rising. So we are lagging behind in infrastructure. We need to build a lot more spaces have to be created for the benefit of our students. So we need your support for that in creating that kind of infrastructure, which provides the top of level infrastructure that the students can really enjoy and they can use it to their advantage. And finally, I would say that whenever recently these different kinds of this ranking system has come, and India, this sometimes become a little bit of disturbing for us, because many of them think that this is the end of life, although we don't think ranking should tell us what we should be doing, but it does affect sometimes. And it seems one of them is the academic reputation. Now, I know that many of you, most of them, are doing wonderfully well. You have been extremely successful in your life. And I'm sure a lot of contribution of that comes from the fact that you had your education from IIT Bombay. And for that, what we need to do is that create certain kind of academic reputation all over, that IIT Bombay is indeed one of the best places in the world. And for that, what happened, this ranking and others, it requires certain kind of brand building. And I would request our alumnus and their, to make use of your friend circle and others to give a good reputational value to whenever they get such kind of thing that, okay, IIT Bombay is really a big brand, so that our, level increases whenever they do us, they rank us again. We're still number 1 in QS1, but we seem to have lost some, places. Although personally, I don't think it's a big deal, but sometime, it does create a little bit of situation in India. So thank you very much. I think I took your thing. And if you see this picture, this is the latest after the cyclone Nisarg is over. The campus looks pretty clean and the air is very clean right now in campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhuri. We appreciate you taking the time. Before we get into Q&A, just a couple of reminders. Please use the all panelists and attendees option when you're chatting. That way, your chat will be visible to all. And then the second is, I know some of you had questions where you raise your hand or you put them in your chat. Please use the Q&A functionality. There are a number of questions already in there. You can upvote the questions if you already have the same question. And we'll be using that list to cover with Professor Chaudhuri. So with that, I wanted to start and continue some of the topics that you already mentioned in brief in your presentation. One of which is intake of new students. So you mentioned JEE has been postponed. Some of the grad programs have been postponed. Wanted to bring up a couple of questions that came up on faculty recruitment as well as grad students, where the admission is not just, especially for PhD students, the admission might not just be an exam. So how are those intake programs being handled, both on the faculty recruitment side as well as on the grad student side?
Okay. See, what is happening is that, as you know, undergraduates are mostly done by JEE Advanced now. So it's a very straightforward. We have to wait for that exam, and this is being planned, okay, so, and by all IITs together. So that would be just delayed. Okay. On the other hand, the masters are mostly done in terms of the GATE. Okay. So that is a graduate aptitude test in engineering, for those of you who have forgotten. Now, this was already done in February. Results were declared in time. So we have their score. So normally what happens, sometimes we also additionally use some kind of a personal interview, or you call them, have some other kind of exam. So this time, all IITs and other, we simply said that we will not use it because that's not possible. We'll use that rank in the GATE exam and give them the admission. Okay. And yeah, I think today, the first lot of admission offer has already gone to the set of students, for IIT Bombay. Now comes the PhD and few other cases, here, we need them to, in India, we do expect that they come here. We observe them because normally what happens, there is a little bit of variance in the quality. So we do want them in our campus, but which is not happening. So what we are planning, is still not confirmed yet because we are still wondering that we may not be able to call them here. At the same time, I would say the authenticity of these kind of exams, which are based on online, is not established. Okay. So we are thinking that maybe we would delay it by some more time when the situation improves and they can actually join, so let's say in January, so that this is not a big loss for them. Or during that time, hopefully we can use certain kind of, like we have TCS has something called ION in India, which organize all our JEE and other exams. So similar kind of facility can be used so that they can come there and take an exam.
Got it. And what about faculty recruitment?
So faculty recruitment is, so we've completed certain round in December, and we are planning to do it after that again, March onwards. So since that happens, see, we always expect the faculty to visit us, or the prospective candidate to visit us before that. So those who are visited in between, we actually are coming out with a advertisement in another probably 15 days, okay? And now we'll start doing it. So those who have visited will be done, but otherwise we'll do it over the internet. That's been going on for a long time. So once they visit, we don't ask them to come again during the interviews.
Got it. Got it. On the reverse side of this, which is students who are graduating, and you touched upon this a little bit, there are students who have had difficulty in getting summer internships or getting kind of jobs given the economic environment. And also there'll be a number of students who will be taking up graduate programs after graduating from IIT Bombay. And they might have had issues with respect to either getting admissions or visas because other universities are also facing similar challenges. How is IIT Bombay helping them, and how can the alumni group help them? Okay, so yes, this is a good point. That, see, right now, if you see that 1,200 of them, they have their job. Okay, so far it's intact as of, I think, probably a few days ago. Okay, so they would be all able to join. Most likely, some of them, they may have to postpone the joining date, okay, by a month or two, but they will not lose out. Okay, the issue is that what happens if they don't get anything. So one particular measure that I notice is that typically there is a provision where if somebody is a BTech or from IIT, one of the IIT, and if they want to do a master's or something, they do not have to write the exam as long as their CPI is more than 8.0. So this time, many of them have applied theirs, so that in that particular case, we may be able to absorb some of them in our master's program. So, this is always a phenomenon all over the world, that when the industry, it comes down a little bit, the academics actually benefit, because many of them, they say, oh, let me use this time to go to school, right? So some of them will get our own students, or maybe from another IIT, to do our master's, or maybe some of them PhD also. So we may be able to, that's what. And of course, we'll try to give them additional time slot, in their campus placement. Those facilities also will try. And how can alumni help out with helping students who might need to get alternate kind of jobs? Who are the best people in the organization for the alumni to contact if they have jobs or summer internships to offer?
Okay, so this is the next. So this would be wonderful if we know from our alumnus, from all over the world, that certain companies are, looking for people, or you can take certain set of students. Please do let us know. We have our placement, professor in charge placement. If you can look it up over the internet, or you can send me a mail. I can connect them. So this office actually handles all such placement. So even now, whenever I get something, I forward it to them, and they will immediately, connect to the set of students. So definitely that, what you suggest is very good. I mean, if the alumni can actually suggest that we have a job, let's say 5, 2, whatever it is, we'll connect to the best set of students.
Thank you. And I know there was one other question which came up around current students who are stuck outside, either in exchange programs, or they are stuck because of kind of visa issues. I know IITBHF had sent out a note saying anyone who's stuck because of a situation like this can reach out to IITBHF, and we will work with the local alumni in that particular city to help. That's certainly true for the US. But similarly, I believe if you can send that email out to IITBHF or AA, we can work with the alumni in the local kind of area to help the students. Another set of questions that have come up are all around online education. And I know you touched upon this on how online education is obviously not a direct replacement for in-person teaching. There are many aspects that I've missed. So there are two broad groups of questions. One is, how is the institute planning to support those students who might not have the requisite equipment, whether it's the internet connection or a laptop or power supply, etc., to continue their education if the institute goes to an online model? So that's one. And then the second is, in terms of the tools that you're using to teach the students in an online only basis, what kind of tools are you using? Are you partnering with other organizations like Coursera or other MOOC organizations to use some of their tools? And are we making that technology available on a broader scale for other institutions to use?
Okay, good. So to your first question, that how are you handling those people? So we actually ran some kind of like a survey that during those 2 weeks of online training that we did, okay, it actually helped, even though it did not help in the last semester to carry forward to the entire one, but we did collect quite a bit of feedback. And we found roughly 10% of our students, okay, right now in the undergraduate, who have difficulty in terms of supporting themselves through these laptops and others. They come from, I would say, much poorer background. So what we are actually planning to do, our process, as a matter of fact, I can tell you to all alumni. So as far as I remember in the last 20, 30 years that I have been in IIT Bombay, I don't think there's any student who got into IIT Bombay and said that, I have problem, financial difficulty. So, but because of that, he could not attend, because IIT Bombay always found a way through alumni support or other support to always help them. So here also, our thing is that we're very thankful that, this was the first time immediately we got a call from HF, and they said that, tell us what kind of support we need. And we raised this issue, and they are coming out with some kind of a help. And we calculated that roughly about 10% of our students will not have this kind of facilities. So we'll have to support 10% of them with laptops, okay? And also possibly in few cases, certain kind of broadband or maybe data card related support, monthly support. We'll do it, but at the same time, if you realize that if they're not in the hostel, they're not coming, they save certain amount of money also. So their actually cost outgo is less. Similarly, if you have a master's student, so they are supposed to be getting your teaching, your assistancy. So if they are not coming here, but we are giving them the stipend. So if you look at their 3-month stipend, that's, I think, good enough for them to buy a laptop for them. So for masters and PhD, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. But for undergraduates, because not all of them get the support, so we are looking for support from various sources, including our alumni and other philanthropists, if they can actually provide that, okay, so that we can pass it on to our students, so that at the end of the day, we do not want any student to sit there idle and saying that, look, I cannot. And then coming to the second part of that is that what happens to the actual education, because we can provide them laptop, we can provide them the data, but we cannot provide them the power if there is a power cut. And it happened. Even in IIT Bombay, I don't know why here, suddenly we find that early morning, the power goes up. Okay, even though the power, there is actually a lot of generation of power because the demand is low. So what we are thinking right now is that we'll probably not go directly on a live lecture session, because that's where there is a difficulty, because if there's a power cut or something at that point, they will not be able to follow. So we would like to do recording, put it in our Moodle or some other, this one. If somebody wants to go live, then also we say you record and put it on the Moodle. If you want to go, we are trying to work out with WebEx or certain other kind of facilities to see that we can reach out to all of them, okay? Or we can put it in YouTube. But Moodle has become very popular because we can correspond with all our students there. And we have opened it up so that you don't have to be, you don't need a VPN, okay? So that's what we try to connect. And hopefully that's our platform. And then it's not dependent, because then we wanted to have a virtual flipped classroom, so that at the end of it, let's say I upload whatever, okay? And then the professor, and there will be TAs somewhere. So these students, if they have difficulty, they can either call them up and whatever, or maybe just phone them up if nothing works, because India calling is cheaper, definitely, okay? So we'll allow all of them to use this facility so that the students get whatever the best possible. Of course, it's still, I would say, taking the test of milk through buttermilk, okay? It's not the complete thing, but at least they don't suffer. We'll try to see whatever.
And in terms of the curriculum that is being shared, are the faculty revising the curriculum or using a different way of teaching instead of just directly recording the lectures? Because now that it's a remote environment, the lecture that they might have been giving in a live class might not translate very well in a remote learning environment.
Yes. So this is what is the training that we are trying to give them right now. So we have education technology cell. If you remember that we have it for about last 10 years now. Okay, and they are coming out different ways. They have been doing this research. Okay, and it's very popular now. So what they are doing is actually they are telling us that this is how you should prepare yourself. Okay, so they have created a module. And as a matter of fact, once this is all done, it's verified, we plan to actually give it away for all the rest of the people in India. So that, because I understand that all other places also, they will have to do something like this. So that their teachers also can do self-training. So it will be a self-training module, which we will be hosting. Okay, so that would be our contribution to the rest of the world.
And in terms of all the lectures and the classes that we are recording, is there a plan on offering some of the courses that were previously available only to students who are enrolled at IIT Bombay on a broader scale through online education, now that everyone is recording those classes anyway?
Okay, so we have approved now something called MINCH program, okay, where we would give them a degree called Master of Engineering, and they don't have to come to the campus except for writing the exams. Okay, so this would be on an online base, and they can do it, and this would be like some certain kind of additional cost involved. So they will get a degree from there. Now, at the same time, IIT Bombay has IITBX, okay, which is like your EDX kind of a MOOCs platform. So those things are all available. If you look at NPTEL videos, we have a huge number of course material which is available for all. And even we are saying that if somebody wants to take certain things from there, and if they find that this is useful, so we can even tell our students, look, this course from here to here, this particular thing, why not you read it up? It's very nice. It's like an additional material that will be there. So similarly, if our thing is there right now, you want to do it in the Moodle, but if it is curated, properly done, then there's no reason why we cannot put it in an open where some others can benefit. That anyway, all the NPTEL videos are there.
Got it. Thank you. One of the other set of questions that is coming up is, obviously, research is being impacted. How is that going to affect the R&D output of the campus, both for professors as well as grad students who primarily focus on research, and any steps that can be done to kind of support them?
So actually, this is a difficult question to answer. We'll definitely suffer, okay? And there is no easy way to pick up. See, we were doing very well, okay? We picked up a lot of momentum, a lot of good papers, others, they were coming from good journals. Even sometimes I put it across, even on COVID related, even today I put it up on the Facebook. There's a lot of nice work, but unfortunately what happened, because these labs, particularly those are wet labs and those which has, a lot of these instruments and others, it's sitting idle. If those people in the bio, if they have done certain chemicals, probably it's expired chemicals, if certain things. If it is there as a virus, something they are doing some kind of parasites, probably it's dead by now. It's more than 60 days. So you need to start it almost like so that is not like a warm start. This is a cold start. And any cold start actually gives us a problem. Okay, so I suspect that we'll definitely lose out to some extent in this, and we'll have to work extra hard, particularly our students and others. Even, we have been deciding that, normally after 5 years, we don't give the support to our teaching assistant. So we are thinking if we can give them little additional, because they have to finish, they will also have to do it. So this, we have to find some additional source from us to fund them. So this is something that is very difficult, but we have to really work with a lot more harder intensity to make it up.
Got it. So related to that point, have you heard from either the MHRD or anyone else where, given the economic environment in India, is there a chance that the funds or the grants that are being available to IIT Bombay go down? And it seems like the costs are certainly going up because of all the support that you have to provide. What would kind of that shortfall be, and if the alumni body can do anything to help?
Well, see, the MHRD has already told us that in the first quarter, see, normally we get release per quarter basis on a quarterly basis. In the first quarter, they have given us about 20% less, okay? And they are doing it, of course, almost all ministries have been asked to do it. So you have to realize that entire nation is actually a slowdown, okay? So we do expect a lot of reduction. So what we have to do is that even those certain cases we cannot compromise. If it's anything to do with, so far with COVID related thing, we said, okay, we have to spend. If it is required, we have to get it. But when you do it, and at the same time, you have less amount, money available. So certain things scatter, they will suffer. For example, we used to support our own, what you call this central facility development. So we actually pull in money and then create big infrastructure, which are expensive machines, where they can actually help us in a lot of analytical studies. So we have to probably cut it down. Similarly, in certain cases, let's say our campus management, as well as all these different kind of refurbishing, whatever is required, even basically the maintenance, okay, that will take a hit. So it's about, roughly, we feel that all those things would be our initial estimate that we'll probably lose out something like 70 to 80 crores negative. And that's going to be a big shock, because then we'll have to burn our own internal kind of savings that we have had so far. So unless we get these additional through different kind of donations and others, the one we have been saving over so many years, suddenly, you burn out. So that's not a good situation. So it will be very nice if we can get some big support.
Thank you. Another set of questions which you touched upon a little bit during the presentation is supporting students that might have mental health challenges. So they might have lost their support structure that might have existed when they were living in the hostels. They might now be living in challenging conditions domestically. So is there a plan to support students through kind of regular online counseling, even going forward through the fall semester and beyond, especially given the times that we are living in right now?
Oh, absolutely. So this is very much required, because I tell you, during the pandemic time, certain things are really crazy, okay? Even those students who have been here, some of them, they're showing a lot of signs of distress, okay? And even for them, we needed, those who are even here, few of them. And there have been also similarly, somebody has gone, maybe the parents are a little older or somebody's falling sick. This has created a lot of difficulties, okay? And being alone, they are not able to actually let it out, okay? So we have about 6 full-time student counselors, okay? So we want to use them right now because we say you should be on call basis. So anytime there's somebody should man that particular line. And they are working all. And I think, we'll have to actually make sure that, right now, if somebody is not in IIT campus, we don't ask them to come here. But telephone and all, they can do it from work from home. So we have to even probably formalize structure, even at late night and others, whenever somebody is there, they should be available. So what you said is very important. That support system is much more required, okay? When the semester starts, because supposing here what happens is some students, your friend can help you. Oh, this you did not understand this course. Okay, this is how you do it. But over there, nobody can help you. And if they find that helplessness can actually set into their mind, it could be really bad. So we have to actually in parallel put all the support system. I do agree.
And the campus is not just students, right? There's faculty who lives there. A significant portion of the staff live there and support the campus. Going forward, what steps will be taken to make sure that they are safe and secure and healthy, since the staff will continue to work in the campus, even if it's on a reduced basis? So how will they be supported beyond just the students?
So, see, even for example, I told you that there are 2 committees actually, and then one super committee, you could say, that the campus rebooting committee, they're looking at all possible formulations, right? So each lab, like supposing your lab ordinarily was hosting, let's say 20 students, or it is a software kind of a lab, it's, then it can hold more. If it is some other lab, maybe less. But then now you're saying they should maintain the distance. So your capacity, maybe, at the most 50%, it would be even less, okay? So at a given time, then we have to actually physically separate them out, okay? So that you come in one day, maybe other come, or maybe day, different shift, whatever it is, proper cleaning. So we are looking at all possible things. We calculated, for example, we found that normally for every person we have in our academic and camp, our area, it needs roughly 12 ml of your sanitizers, like alcohol-based sanitizers, per person per day. Now you can think of, let's say we calculated like how many do they need over the entire, like let's say 6 months time. So that give you this one, then you do the costing, okay? So we are actually preparing on that kind of mode. And they said this would be there at different places. And again, I don't want to touch, so very places I find now you have the pedestal based kind of, push button. And these are something that we are doing, because finally we must tell that life is more important, okay? We cannot take any chance, okay? Whatever is, and the students, when they are actually saying that you can come back now, the first thing we tell you that, look, it's purely voluntary. If you are not sure that, if you feel that it's too risky to come here, because Mumbai is in, really in the red spot, okay? So if it is like this, you don't have to come. Only when you are comfortable coming, because mental peace is also required. So only when you do that, then you come. Similarly for faculty also, luckily most of them are there. See, many of the staff or few faculty members who are staying outside, now we are saying you don't come here. So after the opening, we said only if you have your own personal vehicle, then you come in. Otherwise, no. Okay, you work from home. Similarly, there are staff who do not stay here. So we are working on a very, very skeletal staff, and those who are essential service providers. Some of them we have put them in our hostels and our guest houses. Okay, so they are actually inside the campus. And in few cases, they do not want to leave because they have a family. Then we send a vehicle to them and then they get picked up, so that we don't want to get them exposed. Because finally, these are our people. We cannot take chance with them. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I realize we are already a little bit over time. So we appreciate you taking the time, especially because it is late in the evening, your time, to share your thoughts with us and have this question and answer session with us. On behalf of IITBHF and the alumni organization, I thank you for all the work you are doing for the Institute. And for all the attendees who have stuck around till now, thank you very much for taking time out of your weekend to join this session. As we mentioned at the start, we plan to host a similar session every 3 to 4 weeks covering topics of interest. Please fill out the survey that will get redirected to once you end the session. And hope everyone stays safe and healthy. And as we were discussing, if there's anything that you can do to support the Institute or the student body, please feel free to reach out to IITBHF or IITBA or IITB itself. So once again, thank you everyone, and hope everyone stays safe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a pleasure, but I think Perfil, you are not too old for the graduate. So I tell you that night is too young, right? It's not that bad. It's only 10:30. We don't go to bed so early. So we are also coming like students, okay? So thank you very much. It's a real pleasure being here, and I hope all of our alumnus, no matter where they are, they stay healthy, because this is a time we definitely need to stay safe and secure. And so I wish that all of you stay healthy, and let's work together. We should be able to, for the benefit of IIT Bombay and all our alumnus, no matter where they are. Thank you, and good night. Okay. Look forward to seeing some of you again. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Dr. Chaudhuri. Thank you, Paraswal. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.